Have you ever heard whispers of secret underground bases, hidden wars with aliens, or government conspiracies so deep they involve non-human intelligence? Today, we're taking a deep dive into sources that pull back the curtain, or at least they try to, on one of the most persistent and, well, wild claims in the UFO world, the alleged Dulce Base and the battle that supposedly took place there.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how these narratives weave together. They draw from, a mix of personal testimony, leaked documents, some real, some maybe not so real, and a lot of public skepticism too. We'll be exploring things like Reddit discussions, Wikipedia entries, military economic reports, even transcripts from other shows to really understand the story of Dulce, the claims of this guy, Phil Schneider, and how all that intersects with more recent whistleblower accounts. Our mission really is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, helping you sift through the extraordinary details and figure out what's really worth knowing.
Okay, so let's start with the place itself, Dulce, New Mexico. It's a census-designated spot in Rio Arriba County, home to the Jicarilla Apache Reservation. The town actually has a history. Dates back to 1877, founded by the Gomez family as Agua Dulce Sweetwater, apparently because of natural springs. The railroad even came through back
Yeah.
in 1882, so, a small, quiet community.
Exactly. And that seemingly quiet history is precisely where this Dulce Base conspiracy theory takes root. The core idea. A highly secret underground military base northwest of Dulce, supposedly linked to Los Alamos. And this alleged base isn't just some simple bunker. Its supposed purpose is, well, pretty extraordinary. It's claimed to be a biogenetic lab. They say alien-human hybrids are created and experimented on there, and it's supposed to be a place for tech exchange between the U.S. government and alien nations. The legend describes it having 7 massive underground levels, a huge complex hidden under the mesa.
And when the stories talk about aliens, they specifically mention the Zeta Grays.
Mm.
Descriptions often say they're smelly, use lasers, and the stories highlight their malevolent activity. There's also this persistent claim about the government holding non-human biologics from crash crafts.
You're right, and this is where the story often connects to those mysterious cattle mutilations. You remember those, mostly in the American West, 1973 to 1983.
Vaguely, yeah. Surgical precision, no blood, creepy stuff.
Exactly. Characterized by surgical precision, absence of blood. Allegedly, this was for collecting enzyme and hormonal secretions from tissues. The theory goes the aliens use these for sustenance, absorbing them through their skin. And what's really disturbing is the implication that this surgery, whether on animals or even humans, happens while the victim is still alive. There's this alleged case of Triste Jonathan P. Lavette in 1956 at White Sands Missile Test Range, found mutilated, drained of blood, supposedly after being abducted by a disc.
Okay, so where did this whole Dulce story actually start? It sounds like a tangled web.
It really is. One of the earliest mentions comes from a woman named Myrna Hansen. Her abduction story in 1980, under hypnosis with Dr. Leo Sprinkle, described an underground base with body parts floating in vats.
Wow.
Yeah. Then there's Paul Benowitz. He was director of Thunder Scientific Laboratories. In 1979, he claimed he intercepted electronic signals he thought were coming from deep underground at Dulce. He even said he set up communication links with an underground base using like a computer radio video setup and reported seeing aliens on screen.
Seeing aliens on screen.
It's important to see how deeply these early claims influenced everything that came later. Some sources, like a book called The Dulce Wars, Underground Alien Bases and the Battle for Planet Earth by Branton, that name is key.
Branton.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is some believe Branton is actually a fake name for a CIA officer.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
suggesting the whole story might be
Yeah.
a deliberate deception.
Potentially. Part of a grand deception, maybe a mind control program to stun the populace. This theory suggests these stories are deliberately put out there to muddy the waters, maybe discredit legitimate UFO inquiry. It's a classic way a compelling story can be used for other purposes, right?
That idea of intentionally muddying the waters, it brings us right to one of the most polarizing figures in this whole saga. Phil Schneider, born 1947, died 1996. He was described as a geologist, an engineer, a whistleblower. Said he worked as a contractor for the government on these secret underground bases.
Right, and Schneider's central story is what's known as the Dulce Battle. He claimed that in 1979, during drilling in New Mexico, he said it was Dulce, this awful, putrid smell came up. When they went down to check, he reported encountering a 7-foot-tall, stinky gray alien. Said it shot a beam from its chest, injured him, killed a Special Forces soldier. Schneider claimed he shot 2 of them.
And he had proof. Or what he called proof.
Well, he would show his left hand in speeches. It was missing 3 fingers. He said that happened in the battle. He also claimed a chest scar from the encounter, and he gave numbers. 60 human casualties, he said. An untold number of alien casualties in this supposed battle.
Wow. 60 human casualties. Those are incredibly specific graphic details, aren't they?
They are, but Schneider's claims went way beyond that. He painted an even wider, almost unbelievable picture.
Like what?
He claimed he had a Raleigh 38 security clearance, said it was 38 levels above top secret, gave him access to earth-shattering secrets.
Raleigh 38? Is that even a real clearance level?
Not that anyone knows of, no. And he claimed he went to a UN meeting where he learned 5-foot-tall gray aliens were basically running the UN, dictating New World Order policies.
Okay, now it's getting really out there.
It gets wilder. Claims about FEMA slave trains with shackles shuttling children underground. It really does sound like something out of, I don't know, a pulp fiction novel. Adds certain dramatic flair, you could say.
Definitely dramatic. And didn't he also claim people around him were being targeted?
He did. He believed his friend Ron Rummel, who published Alien Digest, was suicided by the government. Then he claimed 11 of his 22 best friends also died by suicide. He maintained he himself was the victim of 13 assassination attempts, said he was shot in the shoulder by an FBI agent, had the nuts removed from his car tires.
Just constant threat. And then his own death.
Right. He was found dead in his Oregon apartment, January 1996, officially ruled a suicide. There was a catheter cord around his neck, pills nearby.
But his supporters didn't buy it.
No. Many believe he was murdered. They point to his own prior statements where he basically said, "If I'm ever found dead by suicide, know that I was murdered," implying the government got him for revealing the truth.
Okay, so with those truly astonishing claims on the table, we absolutely have to look at the other side. You said many sources challenge his story.
Oh, absolutely. And quite strongly. On Reddit, for instance, you see users raising some really pointed questions. Like one Marine captain posted, "Why the fuck would special forces be at a drilling site?" So that's just not how they're typically deployed.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. Another asked, has anyone actually bothered to check if a member of the military was killed on that specific date? Because, it's not usually a national secret when soldiers die, even special forces, and the whole leave no man behind idea. Often it's more about keeping operations clandestine, getting bodies out so the enemy doesn't get intel or evidence.
So the basic feasibility is questioned.
Right. People bluntly say the story sounds like internet fan fiction or like the plot of a 90s action movie.
And what about Schneider himself? His background? Those injuries? Are there inconsistencies there too?
Big time. FBI documents, apparently released via FOIA, supposedly show Schneider was a patient at Dimash State Hospital in Oregon back in 68-69.
A mental hospital?
Yes. Reportedly diagnosed as schizophrenic, chronic, and undifferentiated traits. The documents apparently say that under stress, he would mutilate himself for attention, and that he'd amputated 2 fingers and a thumb years before the supposed Dulce battle.
Years before. Okay, that completely changes the context of his missing fingers.
It does. And that Raleigh 38 security clearance, as we mentioned, not a real term. U.S. clearances are top secret, secret, confidential, maybe with SCI or SAP caveats. Nothing like 38 levels above.
What about his family? His ex-wife?
His ex-wife, Cynthia, noted he had a horrible memory, said it was due to medications from past accidents. She claimed he stopped taking his meds after they married, and then he suddenly began to remember the Dulce incident.
That timing is suggestive.
It is. And the finger injuries. Other sources say they were from a work accident, maybe involving TNT, the chest scar he showed, allegedly from a well-documented medical procedure or possibly even self-harm, tying back to those hospital records.
So the physical proof is debatable.
Very much so. His claim of a missing lung is also questioned. And his father, Oscar Schneider, he wasn't a U-boat commander in WWII named Oscar Schneider. Historians found no record. Public records suggest Phil's grandfather moved from Germany to the U.S. around 1907.
Wow. Okay, so a lot of his personal story seems shaky under scrutiny.
It really does. And all this brings that question of disinformation back into focus, doesn't it? You mentioned William Moore claiming government agents fed bad info to Paul Benowitz.
Right, the guy who first reported the signals. Moore said they drove him into a mental asylum deliberately.
Yeah. So it makes you ask, are stories like Schneider's or even parts of the Benowitz story designed to muddy the waters, to discredit legitimate questions? Or is something real being hidden behind all this noise? It's interesting, John Lear, sometimes alleged to have CIA ties, is mentioned both as believing in Dulce and as someone who jokingly give out tinfoil hats. It's confusing.
And Linda Moulton Howe, the reporter.
Her reporting apparently shifted, went from focusing on verifiable evidence more towards hearsay folklore after she met Rick Doty. And Doty was known to be involved in disinformation campaigns against UFO researchers.
So the Benowitz and Doty examples show how existing beliefs can be manipulated, right?
Yeah.
How genuine inquiry can be derailed or discredited.
Exactly. It seems to be a recurring tactic in this whole field of unverified claims.
Right.
Deliberately make things messy.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's bring it more up to date and talk about a more contemporary figure. David Grush. How does he fit into these themes? He's an Afghanistan combat vet, former USAF intelligence officer, worked at NGA, NRO. He was even the NRO's guy on the UAP task force from 2019 to 2021. Helped draft the recent NDAA with whistleblower protections for UAP reporting.
Mm,
So he had credentials.
definitely. And in June 2023, Grush made some really significant claims, got a lot of headlines. He alleged the U.S. government has a super-secret UAP retrieval program, said they possess multiple non-human spacecraft and non-human biologics, basically dead pilots.
Dead alien pilots.
That's what he implied, yeah. He claimed there was substantive evidence that white-collar crime happened to hide these programs, and that officials told him people had been killed to keep it secret.
Killed. That's a huge accusation.
Massive. He also suggested UAPs might be from extra dimensions, mentioned football field-sized craft being handed over to defense contractors. He testified to Congress he was denied access to a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
So what was the reaction when Grush came out with all this? Especially from official places like the Pentagon or NASA.
Well, the official response was pretty quick and mostly dismissive. NASA and the Department of Defense denied his claims, said no such programs exist, no extraterrestrial life found. General Mark Milley, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs then, said he found no evidence to back up Grush. Sean Kirkpatrick, head of AARA, the Pentagon's UAP office, said Grush actually refused to speak with AARO and called the hearing. Grush testified at insulting to military and intelligence officers.
Okay, so official denials. What about scientists, politicians?
A lot of skepticism there, too. Astronomer Avi Loeb pointed out, well, we haven't actually observed any extraterrestrials. Radio astronomer Michael Garrett asked, if hundreds of alien craft are crashing, why aren't astronomers seeing them?
Good question.
Planetary scientist Sarah Russell said it should be pretty easy to tell if materials are extraterrestrial. Physicist Sean M. Carroll called Grush's evidence laughable, especially the extra dimensions part, said that set off alarm bells.
And politicians.
Lori Leshin, NASA JPL director, laughed when asked if she'd seen alien spacecraft, said absolutely not. Representative Mike Turner pointed out these claims of recovered pieces have been around for decades with no evidence. Senator Lindsey Graham basically said, if this was real, there's no way it could stay secret.
Right. There's somebody would talk argument.
Exactly. But despite all that skepticism, Congress did take some action, which is interesting.
What did they do?
Well, Senator Marco Rubio said other people with first-hand knowledge had come forward to the Senate Intelligence Committee, and Senators Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds proposed the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023.
What's that about?
It aims for wider access to UAP records, government ownership of recovered technologies of unknown origin. It directs the National Archives to collect government documents on UAPs, unknown tech, and non-human intelligence.
So they're taking the possibility seriously, even without proof.
It seems that way. Although a classified briefing by the Intelligence Community Inspector General in January 2024 apparently left House Oversight members frustrated. They said there was a lack of new information about Grush's claims, so maybe the trail went cold for now.
Okay, let's zoom out one last time. This idea of deep underground military bases, DUMBs, it's central to Dulce, but it's a bigger conspiracy theory too, right?
Oh yeah, it's a whole genre. The general idea involves claims of thousands of miles of tunnels connecting secret bases, often linked to a supposed secret military energy system. There's Catherine Austin Fitts, former Housing and Urban Development Secretary back in 89-90. She alleged the government secretly spent $21 trillion between 1998 and 2015 on 170 underground bunkers.
21 trillion, with a T.
That's the claim. Some supposedly under oceans. For elites during doomsday, secret projects, space programs. She cited a 2017 report by an economist, Mark Skidmore, about unauthorized financial adjustments in government books.
But is there any proof for her DUMB claims?
Well, it's important to note Fitz is known for other controversial theories. And no, there's no direct evidence supporting these specific DUMB claims about the bunkers and the trillions spent on them.
And bringing it back to New Mexico,
Mhm.
we know it does have a huge military presence, right? Cannon, Holloman, Kirtland, White Sands.
Absolutely. Major, well-known installations.
And these places pump a ton of money into the state economy. We're talking, what, over 50,000 jobs, billions in output just in 2022?
Right. And these activities are openly reported. They're major economic drivers. There's no mention of secret underground bases or aliens in these official economic reports.
It kind of makes you wonder, wouldn't thousands of miles of tunnels connecting secret bases show up somehow, like on public GIS mapping data or something, if they were that extensive?
That's a really good question. It seems hard to hide on that scale. So, if we connect all this, the bigger picture, you see how stories like Dulce, like Phil Schneider's testimony, they really tap into deep questions about government secrecy, the unknown. And while Schneider's claims face, well, significant debunking, especially about his personal history, mental health, they still fuel this broader disclosure movement. You see that with figures like David Grush, legislative efforts like the UAP Disclosure Act. This whole deep dive into Dulce and Schneider, it really highlights something crucial, I think. When you're faced with these extraordinary claims, you always have to ask, what's the primary source here? Who actually benefits from pushing this story? And is there any verifiable evidence outside of just testimony or alleged leaks? This case is almost a perfect illustration of how powerful a compelling story can be, even when the factual evidence is, scarce or contradictory. Which leaves us with a pretty big question.
Yeah, so what does this all mean for you listening? The ongoing debate around figures like Schneider and Grush really highlights the challenge, doesn't it? Trying to sort truth from fiction when you're dealing with classified info, extraordinary claims. It reminds you how important it is to really examine the sources, consider different perspectives, and try not to get overwhelmed by just the sheer volume of claims out there. The human fascination with what might be hidden beneath our feet or beyond our skies, that persists, whether there's definitive proof or not. It's a reminder that sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that make us think critically, question our assumptions, and just consider the vast unknown that still surrounds us.